Hi, everybody. My name is Adam Penna, and I'm here to continue the conversation today in 3D printing and additive manufacturing. And really happy to have the two guests I have today. You know, I've had some conversations over this past year, and it's been an interesting year for all of us. But I know from our topic today, there's a lot going on in the world, and it's good when you could focus the efforts in 3D printing on something that is giving back to the community. And we're going to talk a bit about that today. So Jason Szolomayer is here today. He's from 3DP4ME. And Jason, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. It's an honor to be here. I'm a big fan of the show, and just excited to have a conversation about the impact of 3D printing, and just how it can serve real human needs.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to get into some good stuff there. So I'm very happy to be doing this with you. And of course, Gregor Ash here, who I just have been speaking with a little bit, but we were introduced from Jason, and he is part of the partners there at 3DP4ME, and he's also a scan to print expert. So we're gonna take a look at
we're gonna use air quotes there.
Yeah. We'll take a better look at that. But I mean, great to have you here, Gregor. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to be part of this.
Yeah. So in general, Jason, my gosh, this is your story of what you've been doing, and I know there's a lot of background and effort that's gone into it. And I've seen a lot of, struggle we've both been going through. We talked about that over the past year.
Yeah.
But my gosh, when it comes down to it, you're dealing with giving people the gift of hearing, and doing that in a very focused area that really needs it, when you look at that. So talk a little bit more about that. I'll let you tell your side of the story and just the origins of how this got going.
No, absolutely. I think, my background's in finance, and I worked in banking for a number of years in Southern California, and loved golf, wanted to make the PGA Tour, and realized that my game wasn't good enough. But just enjoyed the journey of life. And when I was in my early 30s, kind of made a switch to more humanitarian work, and ended up coming to Jordan and just looking for an opportunity to make an impact. And I studied Arabic for a couple of years, and then met my mentor, who had been here for 45 years, and just really just knew how to get things done in Jordan, had great relationships, and just really was thinking about how we can provide solutions. And he was providing hearing aids in the refugee camps just an hour away on the Syrian border. He did a few thousand, and they did everything by hand, providing the hearing aids. But before we get there, I want to take a step back and just kind of take a look at 3D printing as a whole, and my kind of introduction to that. And 2014 or so, I saw a video called "A Leg That Fits," and that was really kind of crucial to my journey of learning about 3D printing. And Gregor was in that video, and it was sponsored by 3D Systems. And Gregor, why don't you take it from here? But really, it showcased what 3D printing can do in the sense of the scan to fit. And that was really inspiring to me early on.
Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, and Gregor, if you want to comment a bit about that, that's a great story.
Yeah, so I was, we were talking about my background. I ran a film festival, and had to go from running a film festival to being a 3D printing guy. After I left the festival, I was hired to launch a Center for Design-Based Innovation. And 3D printing was one of the areas of focus, and I was really interested because it was connected to an art school, in that juxtaposition between old ways of making, legacy making and future making kind of thing, right? So I hosted the symposium, and someone suggested, if you're interested in this, connect with this guy Kendall, and he's creating this company to do patient-specific solutions. So I contacted him, and between the jigs and the reel, I had met Natasha, who's she's the focus of the story. She was in an art class, an introduction to forms class. She had just lost her lower limb in a hit and run. And this was 4 months later. And this young woman here sitting in the middle of this class, and she wasn't talking about the loss of her leg. She wasn't talking about trauma. She was talking about this negative space that she had on her body as a designer, an artist, that she got to redesign.
Cool.
So, we were looking at, we took a quick look at Unique and a bunch of other players out in the field, and got a team together. And within, I think it was 14 days, we had an engineer and designer, and we designed this custom implant solution for her, prototype, and worked with 3D Systems. They did the printing, and quickly turned that around, and it became the keynote for the symposium. And from there, that's where Jason and I connected. So
yeah. And
That's a beautiful story.
No, go ahead, Adam. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember that story, and when you get into what's actually happening, we threw out the words patient specific in there, and scan to print, and that's really the magic of what happens here with the tools that are out there in the industry. Part of the design process, when you're looking at someone's limb, or what's left of where their limb was, that's always going to be different. That surface area is always going to be different. So to look at that in an individual case and actually fit something totally to what their actual fit is takes a scanning procedure, where you could look at the surface, and scanning is of course taking the laser that can go across the surface and optimally, taking the picture of it basically and looking at what's going on and then getting the surface to print that out. That's the bit of the scan to print process. And it's amazing that could be done. Patient specific nowadays is a word that's used a lot, but it's used in a lot of different ways. And that's one of them. That's just such an amazing benefit to life. So yeah, great story. I'm sorry to cut you off there.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, from there, I started working with a company that was Thinking Robot Studios. That was that we got to do the design, and they were about to open an AM center, specifically for scan to fit, around implants, so hips and knees. And we hired Natasha, who's the story is about, and she, we started working with her with, we had an Artex scanner, and we were using geometric freeform with a haptic pen, and she was doing these beautiful fairing designs. And the whole focus there was on the precision. And you realize in terms of prosthetics, the precision needs to be on that fit, not on the prosthetic itself. So it was a really good example of how, you needed to marry old and new together. So, the opportunity to look at the socket, that needed to fit to the residual limb, and to very specifically scan that, and, look at hot spots and all kinds of stuff in terms of the comfort fit, versus the rest of it, which didn't necessarily need to be 3D printed, but we were looking at feet, and we were looking at sockets and all kinds of stuff there. So yeah, interesting time.
Neat.
Yeah. And I think for me, where it really took off as a catalyst is I went to visit Gregor and Mike Fanning in their office in Nova Scotia, and really saw the technology and the potential. And we were looking at other solutions early on, and on a prosthetic side. And then we pivoted toward hearing aids, because Brother Andrew challenged me to look at hearing aids because there was such a need. If you look at statistics, there's just 1 out of 50 people in the developing world that need a hearing aid, and only 1 has one out of 50.
Yeah.
So that means 49 don't have one, and it's just a tragedy. And I think Brother Andrew was challenging me, like, what technologies are out there that we can look at that can bring more access to people. And Gregor's been along since the beginning of just trying to figure out, how do we build a system that we can build an end-to-end solution. And part of that was the relationship we built with Dr. Brian Flygore with Lantos Technologies and the direct ear scanner. And the potential there is just amazing. The ability to go in and take a scan in just 2-3 minutes with a balloon, takes 100,000 data points, and then goes right into the cloud, and we can 3D print. Because what Brother Andrew was doing was he was taking an impression of the ear, putting it in plaster, and then heating up the plaster, and it was an all-day affair where you'd have to tool it out by hand, and just minimum capacity. So we're excited about, how do we take, the solution that we can define and master it. And Gregor, do you want to share, kind of from your perspective, what you see are the potentials, as far as kind of the end-to-end solution, as in the scan to fit arena?
Well, yeah. So one of the biggest challenges in scan to fit, obviously, is taking that original scan data and converting it into the file that's going to be 3D printed. Post processing, that's all there. And up until recently, you're really stuck inside of a professional CAD environment, which requires an engineer. And when you're trying to, my focus, after I left the institute, went to work within the field itself, was it was great that we were doing all this stuff for people here in the West who have the money and the resources to access the latest and greatest in terms of where these technologies were going. But I was really interested in how these technologies would be fit and applied in areas of need. And when Jason came, there was a perfect example. He was looking at prosthetics solutions to be delivered in the camps at the Syrian-Jordanian border, so refugees who are, a lot of landmine kind of situations, like people with, and particularly focused on young. So, trying to figure out, and this was our focus as well on the professional side, an end-to-end solution so that you can really scale down that design time. So using AI and, image mapping and that kind of thing to really, instead of having to take that, that point cloud data and do all of the design work to get it to that perfect fit, to be able to, have the AI working with you so that, the engineer basically, or the technician had, some envelope protection built into the system, but was able to quickly convert that into an STL that could then be printed, kind of thing, right?
That's the process.
So, yeah, and that's the process. And for me, in terms of looking at medical 3DP, it is the Rosetta Stone. The scan data is getting better where you need precision scanning. Like when you're talking prosthetics, you don't necessarily need that all of precision data.
Precision. Yeah.
You can do photogrammetry with a couple of key measurements, and you can get the prosthetic part of it, but the scan data itself. So I worked with 3D Systems for a while, with their DICOM to print system. So being able to do something similar, taking an MRI, which is what we were focusing on, or a CT scan, and taking that data and then converting it into a model that could go into VR, into 3D printing. So, Jason's an amazing cat, man. Like I've been in the game for a long time, and I've been doing fundraising, I've been doing business development. And Jason comes to me with an idea. He said, I want to do this. And it's like, and I want to connect with these people. And I said, well, there's usually a process to this. And, let's put our case together and let's do it this way. And Jason's like, well, I already connected with him on LinkedIn. And we've got a call coming up with the CEO of EOS or, someone like that. And it's like, okay, well, let's do it your way.
No, that's a great point because,
it's
not, there's a lot of projects out there and there's a lot of people that look at projects from afar and getting to know Jason. Obviously, Jason, you're there. You've moved there. You found the spot where you want to bring this program. You've moved to Jordan. Now you're there. To actually do this takes going to the person, and scanning them and knowing what you're doing and building that and building the community around it and making it, part of their normal daily routine as far as who's backing it up, who's going to be doing this after you. That's part of the project. You have to have somebody there doing it, and you're doing that. So that's huge. And
well, I get inspired by the Jordanian people. I mean, the people here are amazing. They're just they're not only their hospitality, they bring hospitality, but they also just they're just a treasure, and I I enjoy living here. And I want to tell a story because I think stories are powerful.
Sure.
Brother Andrew, I asked him, I said, if you can remember one person who you were able to give the gift of hearing to and really remembered, and he remembered this young man that was down near the Dead Sea, and his father had been looking for a solution, and the boy was like 13 years old, and he had a tremendous hearing loss, and Brother Andrew was able to provide them with hearing aids, 2 hearing aids, and his father cried when they provided the hearing aids because he had been looking for this for so long. And then his son was able to find a local school where he was plugged into. And when he got in the school, he was able to learn carpentry. And when he mastered carpentry, he started just taking off. And he was able to interact with his family and his community. And then he started teaching carpentry to the younger kids. And then down the road, he got married, and he's had one child that I know of, and just a really inspiring story for me. That's what keeps me going is, it's the people, and I'm 42 years old. We've been working on this for a number of years. There's been a tremendous amount of hurdles from the IRS to the US government to audits to terrorism and money laundering issues, and just kind of figuring out all these hurdles you have to go through. But at the end of the day, what keeps me going is the people, and we want to do this pilot. That's 50 initial clients, but that's just the tipping point. And, our goal is maybe 12,000 in Jordan, and to provide 12,000 hearing aids to 8,000 clients. But we'd love to go into Syria, which is just an hour away. And there's 19 million people living in Syria. And many of them have hearing loss because of the war and the bombs. And, it grips me, and if we can come up with a solution that's viable and we can provide this, that's what brings me hope. That's what gets me
it's all about access, and they don't have the access. So that's huge to bring it there and to have that actual gift of hearing. My gosh. Now I wanted to say something before you go too much forward, because you brought something up very important there. You talk about people with you along the way. I know you had your mentor with you, and you had that loss this year, but can you talk a bit about that legacy that he left behind?
Yeah, no, I mean, he was tremendous, and I think, 45 years of commitment and excellence. And I think the relationships that he had built along the way speak for themselves. And I think, the relationships that he built, I get to stand upon, and just an amazing thing to just carry his legacy, and I think he did things with such excellence, and he never wanted to let something, even if it was small, he's like, no, we got to do it right, and I think that's what people respect in this culture, and that's what we're aiming for, to do things well with excellence, and to really treasure people. He really treasured people when he interacted with them. He looked them in the eye and really valued who they were, whether they were way up top or somebody in a tough situation. So he was a great man, and I miss him, but he taught me a lot, and I hope that we can, what we can do is just a small reflection upon kind of his efforts,
Yeah, you're starting to carry that forward. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful legacy there. And I know, my gosh, I've even seen updates lately, but I believe you've, updated the whole website, and you're having a new facility that you're working in now? Is that you're about to get into that? So why don't you talk about how that progression is going and how things are actually moving right now at this point?
Yeah, I think we built a lot of momentum the last 6 months. Gregor has been working tirelessly. We've been able to really put together some building relationships, not only in the industry, but also just on the ground. So we did sign a lease for a decent sized space. And I think it gives us a chance to grow, and looking out 5 years, we really want to build a facility that not only can provide hearing aids, but other assisted devices. And maybe Gregor, you want to speak to that kind of vision as we look into the future. What does that look like as far as an AM facility?
Yeah, so Adam, it's funny you brought up environment there the other day, and 3D printing is an environmental technology. People don't think about that. You look at the technology itself and the space it has to be in, and depending on which printer you're using, the relative humidity, the amount of light, the heat in the room. Well, the other environment is the place where it's being delivered. So it's easy to talk about these spaces here, and what we can do at a production facility here, and I'm a total believer in the integrated hub system that's going to evolve in terms of
distributed manufacturing,
manufacturing at hub, manufacturing, figuring out where the bed capacity is at the time of need, and getting it printed there and shipped. But then the the outcome itself has to live in a space. So, in terms of the assistive devices, you have to be realistic. Like I was working on Medtronic, upper arm prosthetic solutions as well. And it's one thing, again, to think about these in the West where you have access to power and all these things and replacement parts. But what about in a camp? So the vision there is, looking at prosthetics, but then to grow beyond that, to eventually get to Jason's original vision, which was around, limb prosthetics and other assistive devices. So again, I talk about this character, the special character that is Jason, the AM team that he's brought together, representatives from Ultimaker and Big Rep and Jabil and Carpenter and these really incredible global companies, and including other ones on the design side. And the long-term vision is for a AM production facility that can serve the humanitarian side as well as the commercial side. Again, having multiple machines, having processes in place, having that end-to-end kind of platform solution where you can have a module that is hearing aids. You can have another one that is lower limb prosthetics or foot prosthetics or whatever it is, and have the system be able to help you through that thing. So I think it's an incredible vision. The fact that after 6 years and, the loss of someone like Brother Andrew, particularly so close to everything launching, I only met Brother Andrew on the phone a couple of times, and what an inspiring person. And to see Jason so seamlessly pick up while grieving and then move forward, and in that grieving, lock down the space, finalize his certification in Jordan, meet with the prince, like all this kind of stuff. It's it's a pretty incredible thing to be part of.
Yeah, it's a special character that does that. No, I know it does, and I mean, there's a lot that's happening right now, moving this forward, and so it's exciting. And Jason, you being there on ground zero, actually doing what needs to be done is what it takes, and that takes a special individual. So, thank you again for doing that. I know there's a lot happening inside, like you're saying, the growth of Scan and Print and what could be done inside of Jordan's. But like, talk about some of you were talking about what's going to happen with the actual facility, and then also the fundraiser side of it, because aren't you also going through a bit of that with what's happening right now?
Yeah, good question. I couldn't be more excited. I think started 6 years ago, and just with the vision, and then Gregor's been with me since day one, or early on, and Mike Fanning as well, and just I think seeing this really take shape. I get fired up because just it's really attainable. We had 2 staff members in Boston just the other day training with Dr. Brian with the scanner, and things are really starting to move. We met with the Crown Prince Foundation that has a 3D printing academy here in Amman, Jordan, and they're willing to provide us kind of a customized training solution for maybe some potential local staff that we can bring in the future. So I think I'm all about collaborations and not trying to recreate the wheel. I'm not a 3D printing expert. I would say that I love connecting people, and trying to find a need and say, okay, we need this person in the room, and I get joy from that. And I think right now we're collaborating everything and designing the lead up to the pilot. So just focused on designing the space, hiring a few local staff for the pilot, and then launching. And also part of that is fundraising. So we're just connecting with people who are interested to get involved. And if that's some of your audience, we can provide contact information. And
definitely have that in the description for this, and I know it is 3DP, the number 4ME.org. Right?
Yeah. It stands for 3D printing for the Middle East, or for me. So it's a duplicity of meaning, but that personalized, customized fit. But I think just having these AM experts on board recently, we've had a number of conversations, and there's a lot of exciting things happening in that team as far as capacity building and expertise. And I think having Gregor along to kind of steer the ship, it's just Yeah, I get out of bed every day.
Jason, you don't refer to yourself as a 3D printing expert, but I would, and I'm using the double entendre here. You are a 3D printing evangelist. The passion again that you bring. Again, I come along to fill in some of the technical details, but Jason really has the passion for this kind of thing, right? And that's what's translating on the ground. And you talked about the AM panel that he has, but you really should talk about some of the initial research that's this is going to be part of the facility and part of the program is doing
Sure.
R&D into future solutions, and again, ones that are relevant to the environment. So it's easy to work with a company like Big Rep or EOS or whatever, and talk about printing and the way it's going to be delivered on a global scale. But when you're talking about the street, there in Amman or at SALT or, on the border or in these camps, it's a whole different thing. So having, some of the technical support and the research support to help with that next stage thing, I think is a critical part of what you've been able to accomplish, Jason.
Yeah.
So talk about some of those bottlenecks that are left over, because I know there's a lot of steps to get you there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what's going on there?
We have currently just finalizing some approvals for our office, and then we need a vocational license, and then from that point, then it's just going out and meeting with community leaders, trying to figure out where those are the folks that we need to access that have hearing loss and want a lower cost solution of hearing care, and identifying those first 50 clients, and then hiring those. We want to hire 3 staff for the pilot, as an admin person to help us logistically, a 3D engineer, and then an audiologist. And then Dr. Brian will be coming in from Boston, and then Marcus Stratman from Germany, who's a 3D expert on the printing side. And so running the pilot for 14 days, but then pre-pilot doing a lot of setting up our clients, and then after the pilot, following through with these clients, making sure that everything is perfect and they're able to get the device they need and make sure it's functional.
Real quick, I wanted to hit on that, what you're talking about being, perfect at that time. I know that the large amount of these are going towards children, and, with children, the big part of, scan to print, that the benefit there is, they grow. And you could go through multiple iterations as they grow very quickly. It could be expensive if you're not doing the right kind of process, but this is why you're going through the pilot project. Am I correct? It's part of it? Yeah.
Gregor, do you want to speak to that on the pilot, kind of what we're aiming to not only learn as far as the model and the cost recovery, but also kind of short-term, long-term goals?
Yeah, so obviously there's some best practice stuff in there, and you're right. One of the benefits in terms of delivering this kind of a solution to children is the fact that they grow. So getting them fit for the first hearing aid, but then as they grow, being able to rescan and quickly provide a new earpiece. You have the file on record, so if something gets lost, you can do replacement, that kind of stuff. But best practice, and at the same time, Jason's setting up, an opportunity to do some A/B testing as well in terms of, a traditional design process using the scan data to production and fit, and then using more of a platform. So again, through some of the partnerships that he's been working on. So I think that's really important as well, because you're going to get that feedback in terms of how the scanner works in the field and the process, and then moving into Jason's been all about cloud-based solutions, and being able to have the data go up to the cloud and quickly get the file created and then filed into the printing process, that kind of thing. So being able to test that. So I think it's a critical thing in terms of the service delivery model. And from that's going to inform relationships in the community. That's going to inform the fundraising model in terms of being able to deliver on the humanitarian side, and then what some of those ancillary opportunities are in terms of the broader community and hearing aids, because that's going to be part of the solution as well.
Yeah, that feedback loop is a big part of that.
Yeah.
And I think we're really lucky to have a team for Hack for Impact, and a couple of guys there, Gene and Evan and others. They've been helping us design a customized kind of end-to-end dashboard ERP system that will integrate all these pieces along with one of our volunteers from Google, RF Hogue, who is a cloud specialist. So just all these amazing people that I'm just so proud to work alongside of, that have been really helping us define this. And so we've been doing a lot of work pre-pilot to kind of set up for success. But we know that we're going to have to make some iterations after the pilot.
Of course.
But
Yes.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready for that. But it's just an exciting time for us. And I think I'm just so proud to be part of the 3D printing AM community. You know, like yourself, many other people I've met on LinkedIn or just having phone calls and conversations. I just think it's an incredible community, and just a dynamic group of people that are really smart, but also very impact minded as well.
No, you're absolutely right. I think go ahead, Gregor.
Also, I was going to say, in terms of timing, I think it's really incredible as well, because 3D printing, and medical 3DP has been taking a long road to get traction and really start to make the impact that people like yourself and myself. We've known this all along. It's just waiting for the systems and the integration and then the adoption to happen. And then along comes COVID, and all of a sudden, in the first wave of COVID, the 3D printing community is there at the forefront in terms of PPE and ventilator solutions and stuff like that. And I think the sense of what that potential is now is making its way broader into the manufacturing sector, but also on the public policy and delivery side. So having projects like this now that are kind of bootstrapped, i.e., yes, please consider a donation.
Set up to go.
But ready to go, shovel ready, will show the potential of how a simple concept with a strong service delivery model backed up by the right platform, and you can just as easily deliver limb prosthetics and other assistive devices, whether it's working on guides for surgery, whether it's working on a whole range of things with similar processes, just different print technology, different material, and different post processing. So exciting time to be part of this.
And I think the other thing that's really critical is in those collaborations, Adam, is universities. And we've been talking to a couple of universities, and we feel like technology transfer is important. And so one of my good friends at Stanford, his name is Professor David Beach. He runs a place called the Product Realization Lab. And he's been a mentor of mine and just an amazing guy. He's been there for 40 plus years at Stanford, teaching people how to design things and just really inspiring. And also with Peter and the Technical University of Munich, part of our goal is to set up a fellowship program. And this is down the road, but we'd really love to see people come to Jordan, bring their talents and work alongside a local Jordanian and really not only build friendship and bridges to understand culture and differences, but also to bring technology together to see how we can make greater impact. And I'm excited about that. And that's still down the road. But both those parties are interested in discussions. And so that's also exciting too. I think it takes a village, we can't just do it alone. And so I get more and more excited, as we talk about this, but I think at the end of the day, it comes down to execution. And so that's what we're focused on with the pilot, is executing, showing that we can do this, well. And that's what we're trying to tee it up for.
Well, yeah, good point. I mean, you were talking a bit, obviously, about what's been happening in the past and could happen in the future. What do you see happening here in 2021 over the next year?
Great question. I think it's a year of, setting up our facility, doing the access to clients, completing those local relationships that we have through, kind of a holistic approach of getting into the community, seeing the need, and then executing on the pilot, and then really figuring out how we can scale that. And Gregor, do you have any thoughts, kind of piggybacking on that?
Well, I think ultimately it's the year of realization, right? It's been a 6-year journey, been a lot of stumbles along the way, a lot of pivots, like any kind of startup. But this is a year where the resin hits the ear.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you know, and I, you know, again, Jason has been, you know, his tentacles have been wide, right? So, you know, everything from the, you know, the World Forum in Davos to, you know, all over the place. He's making these little interconnections, and you know, there's been a lot of hurry up to wait and see kind of thing. I have a feeling that when things start to come together, they're going to come together well. And you know, the first opportunity with the years and the pilot leading into, you know, regular service delivery model there, queuing up, you know, this first research project with the Technical University of Munich and other partners.
Nice.
Those will lead to other opportunities. The connection with the Prince, I think, is really critical. You know, you talked about the loss of Brother Andrew. One of the things that he brought to the relationship with Jason in an environment like Jordan was this thing called WASA. You know, this respect and this connection within the community. Jason, you know, recently there 6-7 years is building that, but you know, I can see him building that rather quickly because of, you know, who he is and that connection to Brother Andrew. And then, you know, seeing how that then creates tentacles, you know, elsewhere in the Middle East, you know, that 3DP4ME Middle East, you know, I can see him realizing that dream and starting to realize that this year.
Exciting. That is awesome. Guys, my gosh, what an awesome project. I feel very blessed to be talking to you about this. And now that we have you here, is there anything else that you'd like to share before you get going?
No, I just wanted to thank you, Adam, for taking the time to connect. And again, just an honor to be on your show. And I just, I'm glad to be able to walk and run alongside Gregor for the number of years, and just excited to see what happens in 2021. You know, I'm thrilled that this is what I get to do, and excited to see more people get their hearing restored.
Yes.
And reconnect into society.
Yep. Gregor, any last words on that?
Well, you know, obviously I echo that. I'm really happy to see Jason's vision come alive, because, you know, there were days when it was just like, oh, this, you know, I absolutely, from my point of view, I got a lot of stuff going on, and Jason's dragged me along sometimes, but I always feel grateful in the end. So I'm really, really grateful for being part of that. But I think my last message is, you know, Jason needs help still doing this. So, you know, any of your listeners who are interested in the technology, interested in that application, and, you know, everyone has Kickstarters and whatever they get involved with. Well, this is a Kickstarter. So, you know, I would hope people would consider, you know, visiting the site and supporting Jason in that journey.
Definitely. I'll be putting links into this actual conversation in the description, so people could visit it that way. Also reach out to Jason directly. But thank you both for being here. It's a very important and a blessing to be talking about this. Obviously, you know, this is an audible program, and take that for granted, you know, people out there that can't actually listen. So what a beautiful gift to have, and don't take that for granted. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Adam. And
all right,
thanks
guys.
to everyone for listening.